The first time I kissed him, gunpowder tasted sweeter than my wedding ring. His hand was around my throat, but I wasn't afraid. The bank's fluorescents flickered above us, SWAT battering the doors downstairs. Ron's breath was hot, urgent. "You're gonna regret this," he growled, but his mouth crushed mine anyway, a collision of guilt and grenadine. I bit his lip. He laughed. 4 days earlier, I would have called this insanity. They called me at 3 a.m., Edward snored through the phone's shrill ring. "Hostage situation downtown," my boss barked. "Robbers asking for you by name." The bank's lobby was choked with sirens. Through binoculars, I saw him, Ronald Murphy, 42, buzz cut, military tattoos peeking from his collar. He held a pistol to a trembling teller's head. My earpiece crackled. He is ex-army. Possible PTSD. No kills yet. I dialed the bank's landline. He answered on the first ring. "Miss me already?" His voice was smoke and honey. "Let us skip the flirting, Ron. What do you want?" A pause. "You." I rolled my eyes. "Original." "Nah, I am serious." The line went staticky as he moved. "I have watched your interviews. You're good. Real good. But that pretty voice ain't ever saved anyone, has it?" My thumb brushed my wedding band. "Let us talk about the hostages. Let us talk about you." His tone sharpened. "Why would you become a negotiator? Daddy issues? Savior complex? Why would you rob a bank?" I snapped. Silence. Then softer. To be seen. Something in his ache mirrored mine. Edward hadn't touched me in months. By hour 6, Ron had released 3 hostages. My team cheered. I felt uneasy. "He likes you," said Tracy, a hostage who had escaped. Her cheek was bruised. "Asked about your husband. If you're happy." Happy. The word curdled. That night, Ron demanded I negotiate face to face. Alone. Or I start shooting. I removed my gun, my ring. Edward called as I entered the bank. "Carmen, wait." I hung up. Ron stood in the vault doorway, grinning like a wolf. "Took you long enough, darling." His eyes were the color of bourbon. Dangerous. The door locked behind me. The air inside the bank smelled like sweat and ink. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, too alive. Ron didn't touch me, but his gaze did, slow, deliberate, like he was stripping me bare right there in front of God and the trembling accountant huddled by the vault. "Welcome to my mess, Carmen," he said, spreading his arms. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing a tattoo, Semper Fi in jagged cursive. "You hungry? We've got stale donuts." I kept my voice steady. "Let us focus on getting everyone out safely. Safety's boring." He stepped closer. I didn't back up. The hostages watched us like we were a TV drama. A woman in blue scrubs, Tracy, the nurse from earlier, glared at Ron. "Psycho," she muttered. He spun, gun raised. "Got something to say, sweetheart?" I stepped between them. "Ron, look at me." He did. His pupils were dilated, hungry. "You want a performance?" I said quietly. "Fine. But leave them out of it." He lowered the gun, grinning. "See? This is why I like you." We negotiated in the break room. He had draped a jacket over a chair for me. Chivalrous bandit. The irony almost made me laugh. "Demands?" I prompted, clicking my pen. He leaned back, boots on the table. "A helicopter. 10 million. A pardon signed by the president. Be serious." "I am." He tilted his head. "What's your price, Carmen?" "Excuse me?" "To walk out on that life of yours." His voice dropped. "Husband forget your birthday? Cheat? Or just ignore you?" My chest tightened. Edward's face flashed in my mind, distracted over dinner, scrolling through surgeries while I talked to the silence. "You don't know me," I snapped. "Don't I?" He pulled a folded photo from his pocket. Me, leaving my office last month, coffee in hand. "You're lonely. It's in the way you walk. The way you breathe." I stood, chair screeching. "This is over." He grabbed my wrist. "Wait." His thumb brushed my pulse point. My skin burned. "Sit," he said, softer. "Please." By midnight, we had struck a deal, 3 more hostages for a pizza delivery. Pepperoni, Ron told the cops on the phone. And a 6-pack of Bud. Cold. Tracy volunteered to collect the food. Don't trust him, she warned me in the hallway. Her eyes flicked to the break room. He's playing you. I know what I am doing. Do you? She nodded at my left hand. Where's your ring? I hadn't even noticed it was gone. The pizza arrived. Ron handed me a slice, our fingers brushing. Grease glistened on his lips. Marry me, he joked. You're not my type. Liar. He leaned in, whispered. Bet your husband never made you scream. Heat pooled low in my stomach. Dangerous. Reckless. Addictive. We released the hostages. My team praised me. But all I could think about was Ron's laugh, low and rasping, when I had told him my favorite wine. You're a shit negotiator, Tracy hissed as she left. He's in your head. Maybe. But for the first time in years, I felt awake. At 3 a.m., Ron cornered me near the bathrooms. His breath smelled of beer and danger. You want to know why I am really here? Money. Thrills. Midlife crisis. He pressed me against the wall, his body inches from mine. I came for you. Bullshit. They told me you would be here. The feds. His hand grazed my hip. Your boss sold you out, darling. This whole thing? It's a trap. For both of us. Alarms blared in my skull. You're lying. He kissed me then, hard, desperate, a spark igniting dynamite. I kissed back. Footsteps echoed. Tracy stood frozen at the end of the hall. Ron pulled away, smirking. Better shut her up, he murmured, nodding at Tracy. Or this will get messy. Tracy's eyes widened, her mouth a perfect O of shock. Ron's hand slid to the gun at his hip. My heart hammered, not from fear, but from the taste of him still on my lips. Bourbon. Chaos. Regret. Say a word, Ron growled at Tracy, and I will put a bullet in your kneecap before you finish the sentence. Tracy stiffened, her fists clenched. You're both monsters. We're all monsters here, sweetheart, Ron said, smiling. Now scurry back to your hostages. Play nice. She fled. The next morning, Ron slipped me a note with the coffee he had demanded for the hostages. Meet me in hallway B, 2 p.m. I burned the paper in the break room sink. Idiot. This is how careers end. But at 1:58, I was there. He leaned against a dented locker, tossing a switchblade in one hand. Knew you would come. What do you want? You. Naked. Screaming. He stepped closer, the blade grazing my collarbone. But we will start with a chat. He told me about Afghanistan, how his unit was abandoned after a botched op, government scrubbed us like we were stains. His voice cracked. Sound familiar, Negotiator? Bet they would toss you too. I thought of Edward's cold silences, my boss' veiled threats. Why would you bring me here? He traced my jaw. To see if you would choose yourself for once. We met again in a supply closet. His mouth was furious, his hands rougher than I had imagined. My back hit shelves, bleach bottles rattled. Tell me to stop, he breathed against my neck. I didn't. His teeth scraped my shoulder. My wedding ring caught the light as I fumbled with his belt. Edward proposed here, I had thought absently once, watching the L train rattle past. Now all I saw was Ron, the scar on his ribs, the way he whispered, Carmen, like it was a prayer. It was over in minutes. He laughed, buckling his jeans. You're full of surprises, darling. I wanted to hate him. Instead, I kissed him again. Tracy cornered me in the bathroom. I am telling the cops. They will never believe you. Your husband will. She smirked. Dr. Edward Diaz, Northwestern Hospital? I looked him up. Panic clawed my throat. What do you want? Get me out now, or I will ruin you. I agreed. But Ron found us. Tattling's bad manners, he said, pressing Tracy against the sink. Her breath hitched as he yanked her hair. You will keep quiet, or I will mail your fingers to your boyfriend. One by one. She sobbed. I said nothing. That night, Ron fed me strawberries from the hostage's food delivery. Juice dripped down my chin. He licked it off. Why me? I asked. You're the first person who saw me, he said. Not the robber. Not the madman, but me. Edward hadn't seen me in years. When Ron fucked me again in the vault, I didn't pretend it was an accident. Edward found the note in the laundry. It fell from my jacket pocket as he emptied it, a crumpled scrap with Ron's jagged scrawl. Meet me tonight. Last door on the left. Don't wear the ring. He stood in our pristine kitchen, the note trembling in his hand. Who is he? I froze, the coffee pot dripping like a ticking bomb. It's not what you think. You smell like gun oil. His voice cracked. Were you even trying to hide it? I had no answer. The truth was uglier. I had stopped caring if he noticed. By dawn, the affair was front-page news. Trace's cop boyfriend had sold the story. Cell phone photos of Ron and me in the hallway, my shirt half-buttoned, his hand on my waist. The headline gutted me. FBI negotiators' sexual betrayal endangers hostages. My boss called, furious. You're off the case. SWAT's moving in. No, wait. The hostages aren't safe yet. You made them targets. The line went dead. Inside the bank, chaos erupted. Tracy spat at me as I entered. Traitor. The other hostages echoed her, their fear curdling into rage. Ron fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Enough. He roared. Plaster rained down. Carmen. Here, now. I walked toward him, the crowd seething. Tracy lunged, clawing my arm. You deserve to burn with him. Ron yanked me behind him, pressing his gun to her forehead. Try that again, and I will paint the walls with you. She backed down, tears of hate in her eyes. He dragged me to the vault, slamming the door. You knew they would come. I didn't tell them. Bullshit. He shoved me against cold steel, his grip bruising. Was this your plan? Distract me, play the slut, then let your boys in blue clean up? Ron, listen. Outside, SWAT's megaphone blared, release the hostages. This is your final warning. He laughed, wild and broken. You're just like the rest. Use me, toss me, bury me. I didn't use you. Liar. He pressed the barrel to my temple. His eyes were wet. You made me trust you. A battering ram hit the door. The battering rams crashed tore through the vault door like God's own hammer. Ron's gun trembled against my temple. You lied. He screamed, but his eyes begged me to deny it. I didn't flinch. I didn't call them. SWAT flooded in, black helmets, rifles raised. Ron shoved me aside, firing wildly. Bullets sparked off steel. Hostages stampeded. Tracy sprinted for the exit, but a stray shot ripped through her leg. She fell, screaming. No. I lunged for her, but Ron grabbed my hair, yanking me back. Let them die. He snarled. You're the one who will die. I clawed at his arm. Stop this. He hesitated. A single heartbeat. That is when I grabbed his gun. We wrestled, crashing into desks. His grip was iron, mine desperate. The barrel swung wildly. A shot fired. The ceiling rained dust. Ron, please. You don't get to beg. He pinned me, tears streaking his grime-coated face. You were supposed to save me. A sniper's bullet tore through his shoulder. He collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. I cradled his head, my hands stained crimson. Stay with me, I choked. He laughed, wet and broken. Should have. Picked the helicopter. His body went slack. The aftermath was a blur. Tracy survived, her leg shattered. She called me a murdering whore on national TV. Edward left a note on our fridge. Don't come home. I quit the FBI. At Ron's grave, I traced the dates on his headstone. 1980 to 2023. The dog tag I had stolen from his neck felt cold in my palm. Semper Fi. Always faithful. We were both hostages, I whispered. To greed. To loneliness. To the lie that love could be stolen like cash from a vault. The media still debates what happened. Was I a victim? A villain? But you know the truth. You felt his breath on your skin. You tasted the gunpowder kiss. Some sins don't wash off. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more twisted tales of love and betrayal. Click the bell icon so you never miss an episode. And tell me in the comments, would you have risked it all for Ron? Thank you for following this intense journey. Your engagement keeps stories like Carmen's alive. Stay tuned for more.